Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver. 17-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver as voted by their customers. How you doing, Bernie?
I'm doing very well this morning.
So we're going to talk about a classic, some people would say, another classic, a Jaguar XF from 2009 that had a thermostat problem. What was going on with this fine English sedan?
Well, our client came to us with a complaint of a coolant warning light on the dash, basically an overheating warning light. We'd actually had the car here a few months ago with a similar issue, and turned out the coolant overflow bottle, which has a sensor in it, a level sensor, was malfunctioning. So we replaced the bottle, solved the issue, and for a couple months it's working fine. And then the same light came on, although the conditions were different this time. It was only on after driving for about half an hour down the highway that the issue occurred.
So how did you go about diagnosing the problem?
Well, the first step with any coolant diagnosis is to make sure there's coolant in the vehicle. So I verified that in fact the coolant level was full. It hadn't lost any coolant. There were no leaks present anywhere. So the issue was either something internal in the engine was causing it to likely run too hot, or maybe that overflow bottle had a malfunction again. So the first step, basically hook up a scan tool, which is something we can do in this vehicle, and access the data of the vehicle, see what the actual coolant temperature is. Drove the vehicle, and it was pretty apparent. It didn't have to even drive a half an hour on the highway. It was pretty apparent just driving in the city. The temperature was creeping up pretty high. It's normally, like a normal temperature on this vehicle should be, under 100 degrees Celsius. It was pretty quickly running up to 100, 102, 103, slowly creeping up to 110, and you can hear the radiator fan running full blast the whole time. So that's again an indicator of a problem. So brought it back to the shop and continued the diagnosis. And I'll share a couple of, well, actually, we'll talk a little more, and then I'll share some photos.
So what did you find was wrong with the vehicle?
Well, after testing and looking at a few things further, determined that the thermostat was the cause of the problem. The thermostat is supposed to open at a specified temperature. Usually it's around 95 degrees Celsius. It can be up or down, 5 degrees over upper or above or below that number. But that's usually about the right amount of time. And as the temperature just kept creeping up, I figured it was either the coolant's full, it's flowing, it's most likely a defective thermostat, and that was the place to start. When we took it apart, what we found is the thermostat housing, which is made of plastic, was broken apart. Which is not an untypical issue to find on these cars, and that was, that along with the bad thermostat was the cause of the problem. So at this point, I'll share a few photos. So here's our fine 2009 Jaguar XF, very nice, stylish-looking four-door sedan, and there is this is a screen capture of our scan tool. It's an AutoLogic scan tool. Excellent for imported vehicles, and there's a number of items that we look at. On this particular car, it lists all the temperatures that are running in the engine, so you can see fuel rail temperature, engine oil temperature, intake air, ambient air. This is the outside air temperature, and this is the engine coolant temperature. Now, I did this screen capture after we repaired it and everything was working properly, and you can see it says 96 Celsius. This is pretty much where it sat the whole time when we did a long road test once the engine was warmed up. But previous to doing this number was creeping up to 100, 100, 103, 105, 110. So it kept going up. So this is a place where we get data and good data and information to look at. Back to a couple other photos. Here's the thermostat housing. Now, initially, you can, for this particular engine, it's a V8 non-supercharged. You can actually buy the thermostat separately, but it was pretty apparent once we took it apart that the housing was damaged. Here's a closer view of the inside of the housing. You can see this is supposed to be a nice round cylinder, and you can see these rough edges. These are bits of plastic that have basically broken off and disintegrated. And the thermostat fits into this area, so it really affects the flow of the coolant through the thermostat. So the whole housing needs to be replaced. Not an untypical repair in these vehicles. Land Rovers use a similar engine as well, and they do have problems also.
All right. So this is a pretty upper special fancy car. Is there any particular unique features about this car that we should look at?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because yeah, there's a couple of unique features about this car. I love the interior of the vehicle. When you get in the it's a push button start like a lot of newer vehicles have, but it has a knob. Instead of having a gear shift lever for the transmission, it actually has a knob that comes up. It's a rotating rotary knob, and it actually lifts up out of the dash. But the other really neat feature, and I'll just share a video here that I think is really cool. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Just got to hit the play button here. Yeah, there we go. So if you watch these dash vents, this is the engine starting. For some reason, there's no sound here, but when you shut the engine off, which I did, then these vents come closed. So that's my kind of unique feature of this car. I think that's pretty nifty. There's 4 of them, and they all pop open. But strangely, whenever I've worked on these cars, I go, oh, that'll be interesting when something goes wrong with them. And sure enough, one of the vents, which is not in that view, actually doesn't close. Probably eventually closes, but it's slow. So, you know, with all that beauty and neat engineering, there's extra stuff to go wrong. But it's a pretty cool feeling when you get in the car and you push the button and all these things kind of pop up and move into position.
You're showing your age, Bernie. That's like you're talking about a '69 Corvette.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, we're talking about pop-up stuff like hideaway headlights a while ago, and now pop-up dash vents.
So in the past, English vehicles had, let's say, a terrible reputation for reliability. How is this age of Jaguar?
These are good, and yeah, you're right. I mean, older English cars, they were the kind of thing where you'd be, you know, having it in mechanic shop every week, doing some tinkering or fixing. And these vehicles are really reliable. I mean, let's say, the thermostat problem is not uncommon, and probably the worst thing about these cars is a lot of plastic on them, which happens on a lot of European cars. Well, not so much on Japanese, but a lot of European cars. There's plastic in the cooling systems. They seem to use a lot of it, and it breaks. So that's sort of one of the things that affects the reliability, but overall they are actually pretty good. I mean, you can usually get these cars, you can drive them without much problem. So the engines are pretty good. They used to be problematic in the past. As much as I often have not great things to say about Fords, ever since Ford took over Jaguar and Land Rover, it's made them a lot better vehicles. So I guess Fords aren't that bad after all.
There you go. If you got a Jaguar in Vancouver and you need some service, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. You have to book ahead. They're busy. Or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com, or our YouTube channel, Pawlik Automotive. You'll just search for it. You'll find it. Hundreds of videos on there over the last few years. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.